Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about something very important in boating safety, and that is understanding river systems and how they work, and channel markers, what you do with big boats. And so I have set up a scenario that we're going to look at, that we're going to talk about some of these things and make sure that we're all clear. Okay, here's our scenario. You can see I'm at home and I'm taking advantage of what resources I have available to help show you what's happening here. In this case, you see the blue being our river. Okay, so you have to use a little imagination, but you can bear with me and you'll get this. You'll notice that there are two boats, and these two boats are in between. You can see there are two markers. There's a green one here and there's a red one over here. Those are our two buoy markers, and what they do is they mark off the channel. The channel is the deepest part of the river. And notice one is red and one is green. And there's a reason for that. Because what you need to remember with boating is where's the deepest part. The deepest part of the river is always going to be in between that red buoy marker and the green buoy marker. Okay? One thing your textbook tells you is sea captains, back in the day when they used to sail the oceans more, when they were coming to a river that emptied out into the ocean, the rule for the sea captains was, remember, red, right, return. Red, right, return. That, you need to put that into your memory. Red, right, return. What that means is when you are entering a river from the bay, from the ocean, wherever it empties out into the Gulf, for example, use the Mississippi River as a point of reference. If you were going to enter into the Mississippi River from the Gulf, then you're the captain. You want to remember red, right, return. So as long as I keep the red buoy on my right-hand side, then I know that I'm going to be in the deepest part of the channel. And you'll see here that this particular boat with the Peppa Pig family is returning, for example, from the ocean. And so they enter into the river system and they say, hey, my red buoy is on my right. Am I in the deepest part of the channel? Yes. Why is it important? Because we worry about what's called draft. Draft is how much of the boat is actually below the water line. In other words, how deep it sits in the water. Say, for example, if it was 2 foot of draft, it means it sits 2 foot of the bottom of the boat is underwater. So that means you had better not be in water that is shallower than 2 foot deep. So if we're in the channel, we know that's the deepest part of the river and we should be safe. If, however, they entered, Peppa Pig overboard. Let's put that back. Maybe set her down for a minute. If we move the boat and they entered and the red buoy was on the left of the boat as they entered, that's definitely danger. Because they're saying we don't know how shallow or how deep the water is to the right of the red marker, between it, the marker that you can see, and the bank. So what you want to be careful of is you don't want to be here, because it could be deep enough. It could be 3 foot, 4 foot, 10 foot deep. But it also may be rocky and it may only be a foot deep and you just can't see it and you'll run aground. We don't want that to happen. So the safest thing for the pig family to do is to be right here in the channel, between the red and the green buoy markers. All right? And so while you are entering that, one thing to keep in mind, if the red buoy is on your right and the green buoy is on your left, then you know that you are headed upstream. So in this case, if you're out in the channel, in the river, and you notice that, hey, my red buoy's on my right, my green buoy's on my left, I'm heading against the current. I'm going upstream of the river. Now, if we look at this from another point of view, let's say from Captain Hook and, yes, that's Papa Smurf, if you look at their point of view, and notice I even put a Smurf version of the Titanic. You know who that is at the front of the boat. Anyway, if you look at it from their point of view, what you see is, for Captain Hook, the red buoy is on the left, the green buoy is on the right, therefore he knows I'm headed downstream. That's an important thing to know. If you're in any river system, am I going upstream against the current, or am I going downstream with the current? That's good to know, okay? So what happens when we have this situation? We have a large boat and a fairly narrow channel meeting a smaller boat in the narrow channel. Who has the right of way? Well, in this case, large boats or barges always have the right of way in narrow channels. Now, if they're meeting like this, what should you do? Well, if you're meeting someone head on, what they suggest that you do is you would take an angle to the right, and the other boat would take their angle to the left. That way you end up missing one another. Again, that's when you have a channel that is narrow and you have large boats. If it is so narrow that there's not room for both, then that boat should ease over to the edge. Whoops, we have a Peppa Pig situation again. Ease over to the edge as far as they can, maybe just outside the channel, and wait for the larger boat to pass. And then once this boat passes, they can return back into the channel. Whoops, my buoy fell. So we have a few technical difficulties with these things, but there we go. So that takes care of figuring out what to do with river channels, river buoy markers, which way is upstream, downstream, what to do if you're a small boat meeting a large boat in a channel. On our next lesson, we will talk about how boats should react to one another, whether they're coming face to face, like we just showed. That's generally what you do. You go to the right. But what to do about if you're passing another boat, if you're following another boat, what you should do. If you're meeting each other at angles, what's the correct position to take to avoid a collision. We will discuss this in the next chapter. I just wanted to go over this with you today and make sure that you understood what was going on. So, Captain Hook and myself would like to say goodbye and talk to you soon. And stay safe out on the waters.